Most people assume overthinking is a nervous habit, like biting your nails, but that framing misses the actual mechanics of the mind. The constant noise is a specific biological cognitive state triggered the exact moment you stop focusing on the outside world. Take a look at this animated diagram of the brain. Researchers call this illuminated pathway the default mode network. When external stimuli are removed, this network naturally fires up to handle internal reflection, future imagining, and reading social situations. There is a critical mechanical difference between productive reflection, where you move toward a conclusion, and what you see happening here. Psychologist Susan Nolan Hoeksema spent decades researching this closed-loop state, calling it rumination. You cycle through the exact same thoughts repeatedly, rehearsing the problem without ever arriving anywhere. The psychological danger of rumination is that the thinking fails to process or solve the negative emotion. Instead, it amplifies the feeling while you are inside it. The closed loop acts like amber, trapping and preserving the emotion in its exact original state, which makes you significantly more likely to develop depression over time. Your mind is executing a highly sophisticated analysis process. It is desperately searching for a solution to make everything okay. The glitch occurs because the system gets trapped in a closed circuit, searching endlessly for a resolution that simply does not exist. For many people, this behavior started early. Growing up in environments where uncertainty carried genuine risk, like never quite knowing what mood someone would be in, forced the developing brain to constantly predict potential threats. At the time, learning to anticipate the emotional weather of a room was a highly intelligent, adaptive survival strategy. Thinking ahead kept you safe. The error occurs today when the brain applies the exact same high-stakes survival tactic to entirely low-stakes situations. You end up applying threat-level analysis to an ambiguous facial expression in a Tuesday morning meeting, or a slightly dry text message from a friend. This diagram shows how the human body processes perceived stress. Notice how two distinct inputs, a genuine physical danger and a vague social interaction, feed directly into the exact same output funnel for cortisol release. Your body's chemical response is entirely real, regardless of the input. Once that chemical stress response hits your bloodstream, the brain scrambles to justify it by building an exhaustive case file of evidence out of minor social cues and completely imagined slights. Your anxiety is essentially a highly competent security system. It operates flawlessly, but it is running on entirely outdated threat data. This outdated security system frequently takes the form of constant social simulation. You run endless models of how others might perceive you, or comb through recent conversations looking for the exact moment you might have accidentally hurt someone. Think about canceling plans. A person without this habit types, "So sorry, can you reschedule?" and hits send in 9 seconds. A chronic overthinker drafts the message, deletes the sorry because it implies guilt, adds it back so they don't sound cold, stares at the word reschedule, sends 3 variations to a friend for review, and 20 minutes later sends something nearly identical to their first draft. The cruel irony here is the total lack of reciprocity. Overthinkers apply boundless empathy and compassion to everyone around them, while simultaneously subjecting themselves to completely unforgiving, ruthless standards. This line graph illustrates the white bear experiment by psychologist Daniel Wegner, showing what happens when you try to forcefully shut these simulations down. We start with a baseline frequency of a thought. During the suppression phase, the thought drops to 0. But the moment the suppression lifts, we see a massive, sustained spike immediately after. Wegner called this a neurological debt. Every time you tell yourself to just stop overthinking, or receive well-meaning advice to stop worrying about it, you accumulate that debt. You mechanically guarantee the anxiety will flood back with much higher intensity. The suppression and the forced distraction used to cure the noise are the exact mechanisms fueling it. You might notice a strange anomaly in all this. People who overthink constantly can often make remarkably fast decisions about things they classify as meaningless, like what to eat for dinner. This scatterplot maps out where the mental gridlock actually happens. Look at how the data points representing high anxiety bypass the trivial entirely, clustering perfectly over the zones labeled core values, loved ones, and deepest fears. The noise in your head is entirely purposeful. Your brain is desperately trying to communicate your deepest values and protect what you care about. It is simply using the worst possible method to do it. Living with this requires a completely new objective. Stop asking how to make the thoughts disappear. When the spiral starts, ask yourself what outdated threat the thought is actually trying to protect you from. Recognizing that the original danger has passed allows you to set boundaries with your own thoughts. You don't have to suppress them. You can acknowledge their intent and move on. The goal is not a perfectly quiet mind. That expectation creates endless frustration. The goal is recognizing the protective intent behind the noise and consciously choosing exactly how much of your evening it actually gets to keep.